Hey everyone, this is Ajay and this is a part 3, and our agenda for the part 3 is going to be SD-WAN architecture, SD-WAN deployment models, and then we are going to cover the deployment of devices and our SD-WAN supported topologies. So let's get started. On my screen, you can see the SD-WAN deployment model. So whenever we deploy the SD-WANs on the branches, on maybe on the edge side, you are going to have those deployment maybe on the cloud, maybe on the data center, maybe on your campus network. It can be branches, it can be co-location facilities. So your location can be any. Then let's talk about the transport. When it comes to the transport, you can have any sort of transport that can be utilized for your traffic. You might have MPLS, you might have 4G or 5G LTE connections, and then obviously you are going to have the internet. So it tells us that any transport can be used for the connectivity. Then about the fabric deployment. So fabric basically it covers your vManage. In coming slides, we are going to talk about the SD-WAN fabric in detail. So vManage is something, a management station from where you are going to manage all the components. Then you have vWAN. In the vWAN, it is kind of the orchestrator. Any device which you deploy, it has to be authenticated, and all this works based on your organization. So the moment you bring all these edge devices, they have to go through the authentication process, which is performed by vWAN, and vWAN is going to pass information about the rest of the component to the edges. Then you have vAnalytics. Here you are going to get all the reports. Then as a main component, as a vSmart controller, this is going to be a component which is going to participate and build your control plane. So all the routing traffic, it is handled by your vSmart controller. Then this vManage, it can be operate based on the APIs. So let's say on the remote side, you have a ServiceNow. And from ServiceNow, you can set up some APIs from where you can see, maybe talk about syslog, and maybe if any of the link which is going down, all those things can be pulled from the APIs. So basically, this is your management and orchestration plane. vSmart, you're going to build your control plane, and obviously the data plane reside here on the edge devices. Any services. So you can utilize this infrastructure for any services. Maybe you want to talk from branch to branch, maybe from branch to data center, or maybe you want to utilize this traffic which is towards the cloud. Let's talk about any deployment. So this deployment, it can be on the cloud, maybe on the Azure, maybe on the AWS, and it can also be on-prem. Let's talk about the deployment model supported for SD-WAN. Cisco itself provide you the hosted cloud. Means all the services, the deployment of all the controllers is going to be managed by Cisco. They might utilize AWS, Azure for hosting all these services. Certificate, those are basically are used for your authentication, deployment of controllers, management of controllers, taking the snapshot, backups, and disaster recovery. Everything end to end is managed by Cisco. So this is our vBond. This is our vManage, and this is our controller. It can be hosted on AWS or Azure. Now let's talk about MSP. So MSP is a kind of managed service provider. You might have some sort of the tie-up with the Verizon or maybe AT&T. So they help you in hosting your fabric. Again, when we talk about the fabric, it is going to be vBond, vManage, and the controllers. They will host or they will take care of your deployment, and same time they are also going to give you some sort of the managed services. Maybe you want to deploy some edge devices and you can opt for those services. Maybe your service provider, they help you with end-to-end infrastructure deployment and management. On-prem. When we talk about as it's an on-prem, as a customer, you are going to be responsible for hosting your fabric, which is again vBond, vManage, and the controllers. You might have your private cloud hosted in your data center. So obviously you need a physical server and all these VMs or maybe controller, they will be hosted on ESXi or maybe on the KVM as a hypervisor. Let's talk about the deployment of devices. And here we are going to discuss about the design. So let's say you have a branch. This is the edge device, which is Viptela SD-WAN. And you have one connectivity from MPLS and the second connectivity from your internet service provider. You have a data center, and obviously this controller fabric, it will be hosted somewhere on the cloud. When I say somewhere on the cloud, I mean to say it is going to be on the public cloud, and all these components will be reachable on the public IP address. So when it is reachable on the public IP address, having a connection to public IP address from CP over the internet, that seems to be very, very easy. You have an internet connectivity, you can definitely talk to your controller fabric. Second, you have an MPLS. When you have an MPLS, it doesn't have any direct connectivity to the internet. So you have no connection to internet. What will happen? You are having the MPLS here. You might be having the MPLS, or not might be, you must be having the MPLS connectivity in your data center. So let's say this is the AT&T link on the branch side, and this is AT&T link on the data center side. So your traffic must reach, or maybe I would say all the links, you should have the connectivity to your controller. So my first connection is built over internet. My second connection, which doesn't have any sort of the internet connectivity, my traffic has to go to data center. And from data center, you might have some sort of firewall, internet gateway. And from there, this traffic is supposed to reach your fabric. This is the method one. Let's talk about second method. You still have MPLS, you still have internet connectivity, you might not have a data center. So the question comes, how do you reach to your controller fabric, which is hosted on the cloud on the public IP address? You will have to do some sort of route redistribution. So you know from MPLS how you can reach to the internet. So from both the links, your branch Viptela device should have access to all the controllers. However, there's a catch. If this route redistribution is not there, you can still reach to your controller. But what will happen if this link goes down? You're not going to have any kind of redundancy in your network. So this is not recommended at all. So you need to make some sort of the routing arrangement. So from MPLS also you can reach out to your internet. Now let's talk about the deployment of device. Let's suppose you have a branch and you have a single device which is installed. You might have the MPLS cloud connectivity, and another connectivity is the internet connectivity. This is very straightforward. But what will happen if this device fails? You're going to lose the connectivity. Though you have two connectivity from two different service providers. How we can solve this issue? I can have two CP installed in a branch. So this is one, this is my second. I have an MPLS connectivity which is terminated directly on this CP. I have an internet connectivity which is terminated on this CP. I can do a lot of arrangements. So all these devices, they are aware about both the connections. So the connectivity can be achieved from multiple ways, and we are going to cover in our upcoming sessions how we solve this issue. You might have some sort of the L2 connectivity in between, you can have the L3 connectivity in between, and there's another which is specific to Cisco, which is the T-lock extension. You might have some sort of the connectivity between two CPs and one CP, or I would say another CP, they both will be aware about both type of connectivity. These are the SD-WAN topology supported. So here you can see all my CPs, they connect to each other in a full mesh fashion. I can also have a hub and spoke topology. I can have partial mesh, regional mesh, point to point, and zero. Everything is DIA, direct internet access. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you in the next video.